Hey, Vinny, last time Megan was on here, she was talking about she once lived in Connecticut and the snow. The snow was just like not feeling. She wasn't feeling the snow and not shoveling and all that stuff. So now you're in Brooklyn. It's January. It's January. It's coming.
I'm in the city, so like I don't have to shovel still. Like, you know, there's like other people who would shovel.
It's still Brooklyn, New York. It's still Brooklyn. Like let's be perfectly honest. That ain't look, that's a touristy place. I'll just say that. I know all the Brooklynites who weren't born there and now all of a sudden calling themselves Brooklynites and everything else. Nobody's actually from there. Y'all just happen to live there.
If you know anyone, if you know a great guy that'll, you know, my grandmother will love, my mom will love, you gotta be able to sit down and talk to them. I got 3 sisters, so you got a lot of women that you gotta like impress. If you know someone who's gotta have a cross somewhere, he's gotta like believe and pray, all that type of stuff. If you know someone, let me know.
Have I seen you with the backwards hat? I don't know.
Maybe I need to be more vulnerable on a show where everyone is bald today. So I'm going to take this off now.
I see behind you, you have some shoes by the door. Very nice pair of shoes and slippers, shoes. I don't know. And you got a doll on a chair.
Wait, I
what
thought we were talking about all-star votes, and now we're talking about my Anthony Davis Pelican ball right behind my left shoulder.
Of course it's Anthony Davis on his back, injured. How's the doll doing? What, going to be there for like the next 6 to 8 weeks or indefinitely? The doll's going to be there indefinitely.
Coin flip? It's like, well, blame fate. We'll let fate decide. Who are you, Harvey Dent? We got to find a better solution than coin flips. Who's flipping the coin? How are they flipping the coin? Was it heads or tails when it rested on their thumb? Where did it land? Did it bounce? I hate that. No coin flip. All right, the regular season in the NFL is in the books. Before we get to the teams who made the playoffs, how about we start with the fallout from the teams that fell short? Starting at the bottom. Not all the way to the bottom. We thought they were going to be all the way at the bottom, but because Lovie Smith and the Houston Texans are professionals, God forbid that they will go out and compete to win a football game. God forbid that they would do what they're trained, what they work to do, that they would follow their instincts and compete. God forbid they would play to win the game, Herm Edwards. So the Texans, so Lovie Smith is a real one, and the Texans prove yet again that they are not a real organization. It would be a blessing from above if they were to request permission to interview their former, I think he was taken with the first pick of the second round in the 2006 draft, if memory serves. A blessing from above if they requested DeMeco Ryans to interview DeMeco Ryans for the head coach position, and he actually entertained the job, let alone took it. That would be quite an accomplishment for these Houston Texans. For the McNairs and Nick Casario's Houston Texans, who for the second straight year have fired a coach after 1 year.
Right.
First David Culley, now Lovie Smith, who in his right mind would want that job. And keep in mind, DeMeco Ryans pulled out of the Minnesota job last year. DeMeco Ryans really likes it in San Francisco. DeMeco Ryans is not just going to jump at the first team to offer him a job, even if that team was the first team to employ him as a player. So I don't want to spend too much time on this trash-ass team, this trash organization that can't get out of its own way, that seems to think that the coaches are the problem. But Lovie Smith deserves better. Houston football fans deserve better.
Yeah.
The NFL deserves better.
Yes.
Come on.
Come on.
They played hard for this dude. Ask the Chiefs. Ask the Cowboys. I know there's no column for almost, but ask those teams how Lovie Smith's teams compete. And last I checked, they weren't exactly bubbling with talent on that roster, which is also the GM's job.
Like GM's job. I mean, there's so many thoughts here. Number one, whoever takes that job, whoever it is, I hope they get it. Make it all about the money. Make it about the money. Make it about the contracts. Get everything. Get your pound of flesh. Get your bag of cash. Get your millions. Demand, if you have leverage, use the leverage that you have and take everything you can from the Houston Texans, because This organization is not loyal. This organization cannot be trusted. And so I know there are only 32 jobs, so I don't want to get crazy here, Mike.
They can be trusted to screw it up.
Hey, they can be trusted to do the wrong thing, right. But I don't want to get crazy and say, oh, nobody would take that job. Yes, there are 32 jobs. You want to be a head coach?
Somebody's going to always take it. Yeah.
If that's the last one standing, then you take it. Maybe it's a launching point to somewhere else. But I will also say this. You cannot find a bad organization and not find a bad owner behind that door. Most of the time, they go hand in hand. It's not the coach, generally, all by himself. It's not the general manager by himself. It is usually a bad owner. This is a bad ownership group. It's a bad organization. And they're just so comical. It would be comical if it weren't so sad. So they didn't want to. We know this, Mike. They didn't want to hire David Culley. They didn't want to. So that was like a temporary thing, but I thought it would last 2 years. I thought it was a bridge to who they really wanted. We thought. So I thought it last couple of years. It lasted one. One and done, David Culley, even though he did a good job with what he was presented. He had no Deshaun Watson the entire year. Remember, Watson didn't want to be there. Right. He said, we want Watson. He didn't have Watson the whole year. And I think he won, 4 games? I'm just guessing. I think it was 3 or 4 games.
They won 4. Yeah.
Okay, they won 4 games. He's fired. Got Nick Caserio calling down from the press box. You want to coach? Hey, Nick, you want to coach? You coach the team. But, Nick doesn't want to coach because that would mean now you're accountable.
Accountability. Yeah.
For the trash that you put out there. You put it out there. You think you can do better? You go ahead and do it, especially if you want to call the sidelines during the game or you want to second guess. Why'd you do this on second and 7? Why'd you do this on 3rd and short? Why is this guy here? Why is this guy not playing? Why is that guy playing? You want to do it? You go ahead and coach it. So they didn't want David Culley. They move on from David Culley. Then they bring in this man, Lovie Smith.
They didn't want Lovie Smith. They didn't want him either. They didn't want Lovie Smith. He was never really a candidate. They really wanted Josh McCown, and maybe they hired Josh McCown now, but whoever they hire,
bring him in.
Caserio is out of scapegoats. He is completely out of scapegoats at this point.
I hope it happens.
You can't just keep cycling through these coaches.
Bring it, Mike. I hope they hire Josh McCown. From the same producers who gave you the Jeff Saturday story. Now, coming to theaters in September, we have the Josh McCown story. Go ahead and hire him. And you know what's funny? He'll probably win, 2 or 3 games, and they'll keep that show running.
They'll make every excuse, and they'll make every excuse in the book for him. Oh, he's growing. We saw progress. Yada yada yada.
But I will say this. Can I say this? Can I say this real quick? And this is just not about football. Yeah. This is about corporate America. It's not your fault. It's not you. It's them. Trust me. Somebody out there is wondering. Somebody out there is wondering. Hey, what's wrong with me? Why didn't it work out for me? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Yeah, we can all improve. Everybody can improve. You can get better at your job. We all can. Starting with me. We can all be better. But these are forces. There are forces in many cases in corporate America that are operating far above your pay grade, far above your level of will, no matter what, by your dent, by your work ethic, by your intelligence, whatever. It doesn't matter. Sometimes these decisions are being made and you have nothing to do with it. So let the Houston Texans be yet another illustration that you could be excellent, you could be competent, you could be getting through to the people who are under your charge, and it doesn't matter because bad corporate people are going to do bad corporate stuff.
What I would like to do, let's just go ahead and take this break.
What happened?
How bad is it?
You seen the pause there.
They're telling my lips. No, but see, not nothing.
Okay. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah,
I can see it.
Yeah, I guess it's
Yeah.
Tip. Yeah.
It's like
perfect.
It's like
kind of. I guess it's appropriate. It's appropriate for the conversation we're just having. It's not us. It's somebody else, not us. All right. But the Texans, to continue our conversation, are not alone in their dysfunction. Yeah. The Cardinals have had their moments, though, over the years, thanks to, Kurt Warner, for example. But now Kliff Kingsbury, 10 months after signing a contract extension through the 2027 season, has been fired. We saw this coming.
What are you doing?
Steve Keim,
what are they doing?
who had stepped away to focus on his health, has now stepped down. So the Cardinals have a quarterback coming, who's going to be coming off ACL. We'll see when he's ready to return to the field. And now they have a vacancy at GM and head coach. That team is just weird. And you were just saying about ownership. This is all you need to know about the Cardinals. And obviously, this precedes Michael Bidwell, but it's been in his family for quite a while.
Yeah.
No coach has lasted longer than 6 years in the history of that organization.
I love that stat. I love that stat because it tells a story. And Mike, you probably covered this Super Bowl. Great catch, Santonio Holmes. Great throw, Ben Roethlisberger. Cardinals, Steelers. A terrific game. Larry Fitzgerald balled out. I mean, really a great Super Bowl. But I always use that as an example. I think that's my example of the only time that I can see a bad organization being on the cusp of winning a Super Bowl. Bad ownership. Right, the Cardinals are just a flat out bad organization. They do the same stupid things year after year, decade after decade, generation after generation, as you just pointed out. I mean, they've been in existence for a long time. And no matter where they go, whether it's starting off in Chicago or St. Louis to Phoenix, the Phoenix Cardinals, now Arizona, claim the whole state. You can claim the whole region if you want. You can be the Southwest Cardinals if you want. You're still going to be silly. You do crazy things. And so they've never been able to get it right. And in this case, I'm going to surprise you, I think, when I say that Kliff Kingsbury didn't deserve to be fired. Now, this season.
Yes, that's a surprise. Yes,
okay,
that's a surprise.
It is a surprise. Because if you say that's a surprise, I got something for you later. I'll put that in my back pocket. I'm just going to remind you that you said that he didn't, that's crazy. That I'm surprised. You're surprised by that. That I don't think he should be fired. I'm going to remind you that. Because another name's going to come up, and you're going to be like in, Coming to America. You're going to be throwing rose petals when this guy walks down. When he walks in, you're going to be throwing those rose petals. But he's had some issues too.
I'm intrigued. All right.
But I would say Kingsbury, when he took over the job, they were bad on the field. Right? Number one pick. They earned the number one pick, and that's how he took over. So he won 5 games his first year. He won 8 games his second year. He won 11 games his third year. This year, everybody's out, right? DeAndre Hopkins out for 6 games, and Kyler Murray out for 5 games, and the offensive line is decimated, and his general manager, one of his advocates, Steve Keim, has to step away. Things are just not going well for the Arizona Cardinals, and they underperformed. I'll give him that. Yes, they did.
Okay. You know what?
But wait a minute. What are we doing here?
You're being fair. You're being consistent, and you're being fair. Because if the common denominator here is ownership, then you have to look above Kliff Kingsbury. Even though after that 10-2 start last year, they went 5-18 the rest of the way. And I'm telling you, and I'm sure you know this, there's a funk around that organization when it comes to how they just manage their day-to-day operation, which does fall on the head coach. Schematically, people had long since figured out Kliff Kingsbury, but even just how he functioned.
I'm with you. He's not blameless.
That's all I'm saying.
He's not blameless.
But the buck does not stop with him. You're absolutely right about that. It is bigger than Kliff Kingsbury, which is why the Cardinals are perpetually in this position. I do agree with that. So if you want to say he didn't deserve to be fired because it's more than just him, and there was some circumstances that nobody could have controlled, maybe that's fair. But he certainly contributed to that dysfunction, from what I understand. He didn't exactly have things under control.
And I'm reading between the lines. I know you've done your homework. I know you got some sources. I know you talk. You want to talk to some. You want to talk to some people. You want to talk.
We'll make some phone calls. You got to call some people. No, it's like it's not even really a secret. It's not even really a secret.
Yeah.
I mean, you can watch the games and see that the jig was up, but behind the scenes, it was up as well. It'll be interesting to see if what's Kyler Murray's future? Who comes in? How do they use him? Like this entire situation, the Kingsbury, Kyler Murray partnership they were made for each other, and now one is hurt. And, he doesn't exactly have the respect of that organization. I'm talking about Kyler. And then now Kingsbury's out. So that's a fascinating situation to watch.
I think this what's also fascinating is, and I can't remember the specific details, it just happened. I think there were owners' meetings where the owners talked about, they were reminding each other of how much money, how many millions and millions and billions of dollars they were leaving on the side from firing their coaches and executives. This is remember this story?
Yeah, I do remember that story. Right? Yes.
They're like, hey, and they're kind of reminding each other, we need to calm down with this a little bit. And so you have Steve Keim, you signed him. So this is what you did last offseason, and you're not sure about any of these three. You signed Kyler Murray to a new contract and then immediately insulted him by saying you need to do your homework. You signed Kliff Kingsbury to a contract through 2027. You just fired him. That was 10 months ago. You signed to a contract 10 months ago. Hey, we're so happy. You had a party, probably had a cake, press release, all this stuff. We're so happy. We got Kliff Kingsbury until 2027. We got Steve Keim. And you're not sure about any of the three today. But this is what we talked about last year, Mike. It was last calendar year. We talked about it at the Super Bowl. When we did that, we were covering Super Bowl. NBC had it, great game, Rams-Bengals. And on Super Bowl Sunday, we were part of a panel discussion talking about coaches. Now, in that case, we were talking about coaches, black head coaches. But the same principle applies. And I had a great conversation with Tony Dungy about this too. And he was saying the Steelers and the Rooneys, they just had a formula. And they stuck to the formula. And if you stick to the formula, more coaches will have, or more organizations will have success. And more coaches will be, they'll be encouraged, they'll be assured that they can make some mistakes, that they can have a down season like Kliff Kingsbury just had, or others, and still retain your job.
No, that's fair.
But they're not following the process. There is no process with some of these coaches. They are shockingly impatient when it comes to their vision. Or when it comes to the vision, they're impatient about the vision, or they have no vision at all.
This is why we enjoyed liquidating the Cardinals roster all those years when we used to be in franchise mode.
If I play Madden right now, I do it. I do it right now. You mentioned, a team that we probably wouldn't do because it's looking too good. You mentioned the city that the Cardinals once called home. And you once called home, as a matter of fact, for about, was it 6 weeks, 8 weeks, or something like that? I want to talk about the Chicago Bears. Okay. I want to talk about the Chicago Bears, who, thanks to former coach Lovie Smith doing his job, now have the #1 overall pick in the draft, got a bunch of cap room. Things are looking up in Chicago. First time they've had the #1 pick since 1947. So that's crazy.
They don't need a quarterback. They can maybe auction it off to somebody who wants to jump ahead of the Texans and take a Bryce Young, or maybe they just sit there and take Will Anderson, or for that matter, Jalen Carter, who we'll see tonight in the national championship game against TCU. But I just want to know real quick on this one because I do.
Do like Bernie Mac. Do like Bernie Mac. Stay right there. Stay right there.
Park there. I want to get to a couple other teams that did make the playoffs. When we get to teams that did make the playoffs, and the news that just came in, the very good news that just came in. So we got a lot to cover. Real quick from you, I just want to know, having been in Chicago, all jokes aside, having written for the Chicago Tribune as a columnist, knowing that city the way you kind of sort of do, what does it mean for the Bears to be in this position right now? They're not. I mean, the Lions finished strong, finished with a winning record. Things are looking up in Detroit, But Chicago, man, they've been down for a while, but got a quarterback. They think it looks like they have a quarterback. Got the number 1 pick. What does this mean to Chicago and to that fan base, knowing them the way you know?
Hey, listen, I don't know him that well. I was just there briefly. I was in the, in the middle.
You had a cup of coffee.
Hey,
you had a cup of coffee.
I did. I had a couple of cups of coffee. I was about to, and I didn't even notice at the time. This is early 2000s, so I didn't know the name Barack Obama. But I was about to move right into the neighborhood. I was going to move right around where I think he taught at the University of Chicago. I was about to move right around the University of Chicago. I had a nice place set up, and then things happen. But I do know this: it is a Bears town through and through, and they deserve it. For a long time, they never had a quarterback. I mean, if you look at the organization's quarterbacks, speaks for itself.
Looking for one since Luckman.
Not a lot to think about.
Right.
Or to talk about, but they have one now. So that's why, Mike, when you said, hey, they can shop the pick, don't do that. Don't do it. Stay right where you are and take a dominant player, even if it's it doesn't have to be a wide receiver. It doesn't have to be an offensive playmaker, even though Justin Fields needs them.
No. Get you a monster to Midway. Get you a monster to Midway.
Get a generationally great player. And then have a vision and be patient with it.
Yeah.
And be patient
with
it.
Ryan Poles done a nice job setting this team up. They got some cap room, a lot of cap room too. So
draft picks.
They should be straight. And draft picks. It's in the NFC North between the Bears and the Lions, the last shall be first. And we'll get to Rodgers in a second. Now to your current home. Where do the Patriots go from here? I saw Belichick talking. Belichick will be back. He'll be back, but the process of evaluation.
Hey, you know what? That's like me saying, if my contract, if I'm in a contract year, I just sit down here and say, Mike, I'll be back at Peacock NBC next year. What? Oh, wait a minute. Is that official? Who, you make that call? You sign your own checks now, homie? I mean, I know he's powerful and he's been a terrific coach for a long time, but where'd that come from? Did he get permission to say that, or he just go? Is that manifesting? That's what the kids call it now. I'm about to manifest.
Is that a question?
Bill Belichick manifested.
Is that a question at the highest levels of that organization in New England?
Is it a question? Okay, question is strong, but I would say discussion. I would say discussion, and not necessarily. It doesn't have to be contentious. It's exactly what you said beautifully. Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? Great question, right? Because the Patriots have been without Tom Brady now for 51 games, if you include the playoffs. So 51 games, no Tom Brady, and they are competitive. No, let me edit that. They are dominant against bad teams, except they did lose to the Bears this year. They're dominant usually against bad teams. They're competitive and usually not victorious against good teams. This year they were 8-9, no playoffs. Last year they were 10-7, one and done in the playoffs, lose by 30 points. And then the first year without Brady, they were 7-9 in the old 16-game world. So what are they trying to be? What do they need to do? Does Bill Belichick, is he willing to make some changes to how he usually does business to take the Patriots forward? Because, Mike, what he does, and I'm surprised he hasn't called you yet, what he's been doing lately is just calling his friends and associates, and then saying, come on in, especially if somebody else is paying him. Hey, I ain't got to pay you, but you need something to do? Come on, join the coaching staff. He's not necessarily paying
where it ain't his money.
Matt Patricia. Yeah, right. Well, I'm saying, but Matt Patricia is being paid by Detroit.
No, but I'm saying even if he were paying them, it's not like he's paying them out of his own pocket.
Well,
Robert Kraft doesn't pay everybody's salary, or is it you mean just from a budgetary standpoint?
But there may be a coach. He's well paid. He's well paid,
Gotcha.
Even though he won't give.
He's got a pot
Kraft
that he's working out of.
Kraft's supposed to be giving the numbers. He's supposed to be releasing the numbers. Like every organization is supposed to give the coaching and coordinator numbers so they can all figure it out and collusion. Anyway, so they can all do it together and figure out how much guys are being paid. But Kraft won't do that. We think that Belichick is the highest paid coach in football. But Kraft may have given him a finite number of what he can spend, including himself, on coaching salaries. So it makes sense, right? He makes a bunch of money. So hey, I can finesse this thing. Matt Patricia's being paid by Detroit. Bring him on staff. Joe Judge being paid by the Giants. Bring him on staff. And then bring in some of my former players who have never coached before. I've got leverage over them. Gerard Mayo, Troy Brown, Billy Yates. Bring in my kids, Steve and Brian. And so now you got a staff like, okay, hey man, that's cool. I'm sure you got nice people to have dinner with and hang out with and talk ball and other stuff with. But are you willing to do what it takes to take this organization into the 21st century and hire people who you may not necessarily be comfortable with, but will make your team better? And that starts with the OC. I mean, Mac Jones regressed this year. The offense was terrible. And that's because he had Matt Patricia as a first-time OC and first-time OC and offensive line coach. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Come on.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing, Belichick is known as a defensive genius, defensive guru in particular. As you know, first of all, by the way, I really appreciate how you just extemporaneously and spontaneously emptied your notebook just now. That was some gems. That was some nuggets in there. You're just like, I'm glad you asked, Michael. That was
Thanks,
good.
Mike.
But you know as well as I do how seriously Belichick takes special teams. Was it 3 kickoff returns for touchdowns against him this year? How the mighty have fallen. And two yesterday, which again, we will get to momentarily, those in particular. So look, I think now it's probably, I think that was all I wanted to hit with you on the teams that are out of it. The Bears. Shout out to the Lions. We'll talk about the
shout out to our Lions. Hey, are they officially?
Lions.
Are they the team of
the official team of brother from another? Can we do this?
Official team of brother from another. The D.
Yeah.
Detroit Lions.
Yes.
We got that.
The official team.
Yeah.
A brother from another. Yes, I would say that.
All right, in favor? All in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
No, we got it. All right, got
it. Sustained. Next break number 2, Gary. Let's go. Let's take this break and then talk about the playoffs. And like I said, we also got some good news. Really good news regarding Damar Hamlin just moments ago.
Great news there. And I can't wait to get into your top feed item. Your top feed item is really intriguing to me. Yeah, I want to answer that question.
Okay.
I can't remember a play that touched me like that, I don't think, in my life. So it's probably number 1.
How about the second one?
It was just spiritual, and I was going around and I was going around my team and saying, God's real. Like, you can't draw that one up, write that one up any better. And I was just told by Kevin Curran, it's been 3 years and 3 months. Since the last kickoff return, so it's pretty cool.
It's gotten even cooler. Damar Hamlin has been released from the hospital. He's returned to Buffalo and moving on to his next stage of recovery. Man, a week ago today, we were all witness one of the most horrific moments we've ever seen on an NFL football field. And yesterday, as you just heard Josh Allen describe, we got one of the most chilling moments, in a good way, as in goosebumps, those types of chills. When Nyheim Hines took the opening kickoff back. Of course he did.
Come on.
We talk Friday, Matt. We talk Friday. let's pick up what we talked about on Friday, because, I tried to express my anxiousness or anxiety about, watching football again just days after what we saw on Monday. And I didn't mean to be melodramatic about it, but it was just like, what's it going to feel like watching this game or watching even that team, given the last thing we saw just days ago. And thankfully in those days, Damar progressed to a point where his breathing tube was removed and he was talking to family and teammates, but it was scary in that moment, and it was scary in the immediate aftermath. But then yesterday, or I'll follow your lead, Josh Allen, but God. Because it's like, yesterday it's like, this is what sports is all about, man. Now I'm gonna get cheesy. This is what sports is all about. This is why we do this. This is why you and I do this for a living. This is why people turn out in mass. This is why this is our national obsession. This is why sports is a great unifier. Ooh. Everybody, regardless of what God you serve, everybody was praying to their God for the recovery of Damar Hamlin. And everybody was praising their God, even if you are not a Buffalo Bills fan, for that moment, because that was an incredible, incredible moment around the league. All the tributes around the league, whether it was Saturday, whether it was yesterday, it was all just so beautiful, all so touching. And for something so great to come out of something so dire was really just uplifting.
Yeah, I mean, just that moment. I love watching the reaction. Love watching the reaction of Josh Allen. Love watching the reaction of Sean McDermott. And just the crowd. I mean, you weren't even sure what their performance was going to be. It was a charged atmosphere. It was an emotional atmosphere. It was great to see all the threes around Highmark Stadium there in Orchard Park, New York. But you weren't really sure. And then that just really set the tone from the start. Like, nobody expected that. Nobody said, I bet you he's about to run this back.
Right.
And just see it once, but not once, but twice.
Well, and something that's increasingly rare, as we know, in today's NFL. And kickoff returns don't happen, like you said, it's been 3 years and 3 months since the last time the Bills had a kickoff return touchdown. It's just like this whole situation was so ugly and so sickening and so devastating. And now it's like, it's just become such a great story, and that's the power of sports, man. It's why why we do it. It's why we love it so much, man.
I said I like all their reactions. How about the reaction? Another layer to the story. Damar Hamlin trying to take our jobs, live tweeting this thing. Okay, he's live tweeting from the hospital, and he sees the kickoff return, and he writes OMFG. That was his response to that. So, I mean, just so many great things from that yesterday. I can't remember the last time I got chills watching a game, as you said it.
Yeah.
I saw that, and I just, I couldn't help it. I said, man, that is
last week.
It's amazing to see.
We talked last week about kind of how we're numb to the violence. People that do what we do, sometimes we kind of get numb to, these stories, or numb to these things that happen, what transpires in front of us. It's like, you can't be a human being and not have been touched by what happened in Buffalo yesterday. So, quick pivot to the playoff picture in the AFC. Look, Damar Hamlin may end up making an appearance at the wild card game against the Dolphins, who did get into the playoffs. What is your read on the AFC playoff picture? Let's just take AFC for now.
Not that interesting.
Because, huh?
I just don't think the playoffs are going to be that interesting in the AFC.
In the AFC?
Because of
why is that?
In the AFC. I think the NFC will be interesting.
Well, thankfully we don't have a coin toss deciding the wild card home field advantage. Thankfully we don't have that. But why won't the AFC be interesting?
Well, because I think the top 3 seeds, I don't really see any opportunities for surprises. I think the top 3 seeds are clearly are clearly above the rest of the conference. I think Miami has no shot against Buffalo.
It feels that way. It feels that way.
Okay, they got no shot. So look at this.
You know, the Ravens could upset the Chargers if Lamar plays, and that's a huge if. We'll talk about that with Charles in a minute.
The Ravens won't beat the Bengals. I like the Ravens.
I mean the Bengals. I'm sorry. I apologize. The Bengals. Yeah. I'm sorry. The Chargers could upset the Jaguars. I beg your pardon. They could upset the Jaguars.
Yeah.
But I love Jacksonville at home. The Ravens.
The Chargers over. Is that an upset?
Maybe not. Maybe not. Duval gonna be on fire, but probably not an upset. It's 4-5. It's close, and obviously the Chargers won one more game. Ravens will not beat the Bengals.
Yeah, they won't. You feeling that?
Speaking of the Bengals,
you feel as strong as I do?
Speaking of the Bengals, well, I mean, of course not. You know how I feel about the Bengals. I just wanted to play this. Yeah. No, I just want you to hear Joe Burrow. I want you to hear my quarterback, Joe Burrow. In case you missed it, what he had to say yesterday. Did you hear what Joe Burrow said? This is a message for you, Michael Holley. But people like you who thought that last year was a flash in the pan and that I just had my moment last year, or who thought that the Bengals were coming back down to earth when they started 0-2. Remember that? Here's Joe Burrow.
Window's my whole career, and everybody that we have in that locker room, all the coaches we have, you know, things are going to change year to year, but our window's always open.
The window is my whole career.
Ooh.
That's not quite, they wrote me off, but I didn't write back. The window is my whole career. If that ain't that's a flex right there. Like, we gonna be here. I have not heard it put like that. Usually quarterbacks, they always say things perfectly the right way. Not that he said it the wrong way, but that was such a humble brag. That was such a subtle, like, hey man, this is get used to this. This is normal. This is normal in Cincinnati. As long as I'm here. My whole career is the window. Wow.
Joe Burrow, in the passing game and in the verbal game, boy don't miss. Okay, Joe Burrow don't miss. I mean, really. I every time Joe Burrow steps to the mic, I mean, it's like if you want to battle him, it's like battle rap. You want to battle Joe Burrow, you better be ready to step to the mic, because every time he comes to the mic, he's dropping those jewelries. He's got something. He's always speaking those kind of truths and always has some insights that are just memorable.
Michael, and last year's playoff run was memorable for you and I, you and me. There's still room on the bandwagon. I know you're a Chiefs guy, but there's still room on the Bengals bandwagon.
No. I would say this.
Because the Bengals are going back. We're going to Arizona, and the Bengals are going back. So as opposed to last year,
I'm with
you don't have to, you can enjoy, you can embrace
I'm with
this.
you.
Maybe you'll become, you with me?
AFC I don't know.
Repeat.
I don't know if they are going to win it. But I do think right now, of those three teams, remember I said the three teams are above and beyond everybody else, the other four in the playoffs, in the AFC playoffs. I think the Bengals are the best team. The Bengals are the best team. I think they're better than those other two. I think they're better than Cincinnati, and they're better. I mean, better than Kansas City and better than Buffalo. Like Kansas City should know it. Kansas City just say it. They're better than us. We're gonna play our best and something extra to beat them, because they keep losing to them, and it's not a fluke. They're better. They're better than Kansas City.
Not only that, they're not afraid of them, and they expect to beat anybody that they play because of that guy. I love the quote because it takes me to the other topic that I want to get to next. Oh, the window is my whole career. It looks like the window might finally be closing for good for Aaron Rodgers, who we thought might get into the playoffs last night. Many people thought that he would have more than one Super Bowl on his record, but based on how it looked and how it sounded last night, might be a wrap for Mr. Rodgers. Here he is.
It's a little raw right now. It's just a little bit after the game, so I want to take the emotion out of it and have the conversations and see where the organization's at and see how I feel after some time has passed.
Is there any sort of timetable with that? Is there like a date where you want to make your decision by? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to hold them hostage. I understand, we're still in January here. March is free agency, so just need some time to, like I said, get the emotion out of it and then figure out what's best.
Do you think is the decision all yours, you think, or?
No, I don't think so. I think there's got to be mutual on both sides.
So because your contract, obviously, you got the guarantee. So if they wanted to move on, or at least were open to it, would you be open to that too, or?
To what?
To going to a different team?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't like saying never, but got to see how I'm feeling first once the emotion's out of it, and then have the right conversations and see what the best direction is. At some point, the carousel comes to a stop, and it's time to get off. And I think you kind of know when that is. And that's what needs to be contemplated. Is it time? Also, what's the organization doing? It's part of it as well. But the competitive fire is always going to be there. I don't think that ever goes away. Sometimes it gets transferred, I think, to other things that might not ever fill that large void. But like I said, I feel good about what I've accomplished in this league, and wouldn't have any regrets walking away.
Charles, Aaron Rodgers has 60 million reasons to play another year in Green Bay. What's your read on how this is going to play out?
Well, he talked about having to have discussions with the organization. I think the first step in play here is, how does he feel relative to his health? Does he still have the want to at this stage? I think the conversation that happens with the organization is, who are you moving on from? Because there are a number of players on the roster that I think he's close to, that he would like to, play with, guys be in the locker room. And the question becomes, who are you keeping? Who are you moving on from? Are you starting to shift the core of this team more toward youth? And that, I think, would affect whether or not he wants to continue playing in 2023 with the Packers. So there's that aspect of it. And then I think a really key date that people should pay attention to here is, we're going to get to May, and the team's got to make a decision on the fifth-year option of Jordan Love, okay? And it's about $19.5 million to $20 million for the 2024 salary of Jordan Love. If they trigger that option, the message to Aaron Rodgers is, this is your end date. You got 2023, we're moving on. Like, that's it. Like, regardless of what your contract says, they're not going to pay that kind of a sum, $20 million to Jordan Love, and pay Aaron Rodgers in 2024, and then not play Jordan Love in 2024. That's the organization saying, this is the end date for us. We got the kid. We plan to play him. We want him to play that fifth year and get that experience so that we know what we have. I think they are going to trigger that fifth-year option in May. I believe that's what's going to happen. And so if you're Rodgers, you're sitting there saying, okay, well now, I mean, they've built in an expiration date here. This is it for me in 2023. And then, I move on. Does he want to stick around then for basically 1 year of who knows who's going to be on the roster, who's not going to be on the roster? If he wants to continue playing, would he really consider going to another NFL team? I don't know if that's really the case here, but I just think the biggest conversation that needs to be had after he decides where his heart is at is, Brian Gutekunst, the general manager, what are you doing with the roster? Who are you keeping? Who's leaving? Because there's expiring contracts. There's guys that are probably getting paid over their head now. And that means that there's going to be change around him. There's little question about that.
Well, his team is not in the playoffs thanks to the Detroit Lions. There was a lot of schadenfreude going on social media last night. People love to celebrate the demise of Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. But for all of us, I know I speak for you as well, as a son of Detroit, that was more about Detroit and their progression and what they're building and what they're the foundation they're laying for now and in the future. But I want to just kind of get your take on the NFC playoffs as well as yours, Michael, because, and it was my top feed item. I mean, listen, I don't know how you can stand. Because Charles, we argued about this last week. I don't know how Michael Holley can stand here and say with his chest, with his whole chest, that there is no way the Buccaneers can beat the Dallas Cowboys at home, given what we just saw the Cowboys put forth. So I'll just throw out that little red meat, but I love just your thought, Charles, on the entire landscape of the NFC playoffs in particular, now that Seattle snuck in, and given what we've seen from these teams all year and how they've been playing as of late in particular.
I'm on the same page as Michael Holley in terms of like from the logic standpoint, there's no way. I mean, even at home, there's no way that this edition of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers should be able to beat this edition of the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys are a better team. They have a better roster. They have better coordinators.
They've always had better rosters than people. Don't make me do that.
No. I understand that. I'm just saying from a logic standpoint, every single thing there is suggestive that there is no way, shape, or form that the Cowboys should lose this game. I know we can talk about Washington and what happened. I am of the mind that I don't fully believe. People want to say, well, there was something to play for in this game. I don't think they truly believed they were going to win the NFC East. I don't think they thought there was a chance at that number 1 seed, because I think they looked at Davis Webb and said, there's no way the Giants and Davis Webb are going to beat the Eagles at this point. So I don't know how much their heart was completely in it, but I'll tell you what, they got the wake-up call now. And if they show up flat against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you want to talk about surprise openings, potential surprise openings in the NFL at head coach? I don't know if that'd be a surprise, but I don't know if they lose that game. I don't know how Jerry Jones exits that situation and everybody doesn't point back to the kickoff in Oxnard and say, hey, you said you had to have a viable playoff team. Well, losing to an 8-9 Tampa Bay team, when you have this roster and these coordinators, some of whom you might lose this offseason, that's not a viable playoff team. And that means something didn't get done here. And does Mike McCarthy pay the price?
Charles, I want to talk to you about another surprise, potentially, if you think it's even feasible. And that's way down there. Number 7 seed, the Seattle Seahawks get into the playoffs. And they're taking on a 2 seed that has Brock Purdy as starting quarterback, and taking on a team that they've played in their division, haven't played necessarily well against, but it's a divisional opponent, no surprises. How do you see Seattle going into San Francisco?
I think the only way that San Francisco loses this game is if Brock Purdy has the moment that I've been now waiting for forever, and I'm starting to just be like, you know what, maybe it's just not coming. I'm exactly. Like, where's the implosion? Like, every game I'm like, okay, is this when it happens? Is this when it happens? When does he have the run of mistakes and throws 3 interceptions or whatever? But the thing is, particularly, like, go watch this past weekend's game. They can protect him because they have an elite backfield. Okay, you basically have 2 backs that, separated on different rosters are 1,000-yard rushers, number 1 running backs. So you can protect them with that. You have a tight end, George Kittle, he's operating with. I think the line's playing pretty well right now. They are hitting their stride. Of all the teams we want to look at right now in the NFC, the one that's hitting the stride is the 2 seed. It's 49ers are playing the best football. And I think only way that they lose.
That's my favorite.
I think the only way they lose to Seattle is if Purdy all of a sudden has that game. I think I questioned it. The last 2 weeks I've been like, I don't know, man, maybe this is real. Like, this might actually be real what this guy's doing right now.
No, I got 49ers Bengals in the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 23 rematch.
Again.
As they're gonna probably say.
It'll be their third time.
Super Bowl 16
it'll be their third one.
Yeah. Super Bowl 16, exactly. So hey, this is what we need, a 2-hour show. Once upon a time we had that. Somebody made a decision not to make it a 2-hour show.
You're a lie.
Yeah, it was me. Charles, empty your notebook with whatever coaching news you want. Kingsbury got fired. Dan Quinn's been requested by the Broncos. We're also talking to Sean Payton. The other Sean McVay may not coach anymore. Just whatever you got on coaching, we'll have to pick up on it another day. But just empty your notebook on a big day in the coaching ranks.
I think, for the most part, we've seen Kingsbury was the one where I was surprised he wasn't fired last night. And so I was sort of like, okay, to me, once that gets done, we'll see where this ultimately lands. I think it may be done, but again, there's always sort of a surprise somewhere in the mix. I think you got to look at Mike McCarthy. I do think there are expectations there. Tampa, I think you have to look at Tampa and Todd Bowles. I will tell you this. I've been told straight up, no way Tom Brady is back in Tampa without, and I think we might have talked about this before, significant changes on the offensive staff, which I would think would be
this dude right here
is not their
and
forte.
is McVay, and is McVay gone? Is he a goner?
There's no one who's saying he's not. And when I went back and listened to our conversation in July, I was amazed that the first 20 minutes of it were him appearing to have a quarter-life crisis.
Wow. Chuck, we could talk to you all day, man. Love you, bro.
All right, guys. I'll talk to you.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.